Welcome, welcome to my lovely HP community and the 5D Collective. To those who are new, we're a bunch of people who love to live and love mindfully, spiritually. Some of us are mystics, some are not, but we take mental health seriously, so we all have the non-traumatized version of our bodies, which means we have the capacity to metabolize our emotions and thoughts. And trying to ensure we have those who are here with integrated bilateral vertical overall brains and care about living restorative embodiment, because that's your health and that's your self-aware accountable regulation capacity. When you have the ownership, that means observing, witnessing, narrating of yourself, so it's not a paused self, so you're also able to be yourself. As a 5D mystic enlightenment soul age group person who's a functional child adult, I can tell you all about the empowered inner child adult and the mindfulness practices with mindset skills and the inner growth mindset applied. So with our positive life advice episode, we talked about, you becoming a non-traumatized person. It was like a 1 minute short, or basically secure attached person is what's going to lead you to have the restorative opportunity, because your body's safe, your mind's safe, and they're aligned. Also because you're able to close that prefrontal and notice when you're not in the closed prefrontal. So the ownership of yourself comes up, which is why Sadhguru's quote, "In mediocrity there's comfort but no joy." But I would beg to differ, because our 4D, 3D collective are in this, but putting that to the side, in going beyond limits, he says there is joy but maybe no comfort. I beg to differ here too, because as the Oliver Wendell Holmes quote instead goes, "A mind that is stretched to a new idea never returns to its original dimension." And when you have the bilateral vertical overall integrated brain, you own the sense of self. That's exactly how it works. So you're not destabilized. When I expanded the concept of love from one to more than one, and so from monoamory to polyamory, it was emotional. Yes, it was deep. Yes, it was not, I lost Maria. Nope. Also, the ego didn't die. So this part about Sadhguru saying you have to choose, there is no need to choose. You won't be mediocre if you have intelligence. That's your bilateral. When we meet the non-bilaterally integrated brain person, as I've told you yesterday, we do not consider their opinion, meaning it's not weighing in our hands. We're going to hear out of respect for another human being. They're cut off from pure consciousness. They're actually either going to be enamored with themselves, which means grandiose, egotistical, and or they're going to be one focused. You're going to notice who they are. I know I do. Just like when you're with a butterfly, donkey, or monkey brain, you're going to notice who they are. Why? Because of the way they talk to you about thoughts and emotions and the way they conduct their day-to-day life. So they don't do spiritual growth, but rather they're spiritual bypassers. They also don't explore the mind, but rather they're just a regurgitation. They do not do personal development or the self, because there's a person who has a very fixed identity that is so rigid and or chaotic that they don't know how to expand and how to use no judgment, because judgment has this charge, but instead to be a person who can have equanimity, have a good time, and not say excuse me to someone, you're confusing sciences and spirituality, but instead say, wow, this is so fascinating. I've read a bunch of quantum, I've read a bunch of mysticism, when you have 5D collective, we talk about what we have read, what we have learned. We keep talking about all the amazing possibilities of every single one of those out there, because we have integrated brains and because we're actually empowered people versus the insecure person. Adaptive child people, they come in with, let me control the situation, make it all about me, wield you to where my right is. So they're actively just a blinder of themselves, and you got a 3-year-old, so you let him speak, and then they're out of the room, and you say, okay, there you go, and you keep moving forward. So you'll get golden nuggets potentially from those who are cut off from that pure consciousness and pure energy, which is why our brothers and sisters that are not in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, they still contribute, and so do the 7 to 14 Charming. In the meantime, for those of us who are in the mindful living and loving practice, we never know a day of boredom. We do not ever know mediocrity or discomfort when our lovely brain is actively working, because of that integration. So my mental activity is soft, my emotional activity is soft. That means sensations, images, affects, meanings, and behaviors, and any of my experiences. So if, let's say, I have events that from my past come into the room, I know how to talk about them with someone. And that's as straightforward as it gets, which is why empowered couples, that securely attached people, don't shy away from what is being straightforward with each other. because we're not afraid of that which are ruptures. Okay, so being terrified that a rupture means the end of a relationship sets you up from the very beginning to have a relationship that isn't genuine, that isn't real, that doesn't involve being able to just be yourself. Russell Coates, PhD. If you're building a relationship based on a facade, that's where the insecure person is at, by the way. But let me pause that. So, never know a day of boredom or mediocrity or discomfort when you have an integrated brain, when you have secure attachment, when you pursue and maintain a restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating life. It's all easy peasy. Emotional, yes. Emotions aren't hard. Thoughts aren't hard. It's not lying. It's I use my ventral vagal because my body is in its state of connection. So the state of safety and connection when emotions come up. So I'm metabolizing it because my body's safe. My thoughts, my mind is safe too. I don't have an inner critic. I don't have an outer critic. I don't have shame, blame, fault, revenge. I don't have any of toxic family, toxic stories, toxic anything. In fact, toxic, it's just a song. Toxic, no, that's it. That's the one. I don't have any personally toxic. If you're a person who has the mindfully living, loving from the 5D collective, you don't use your mind and your brain and that left mode in any shitty way because it's ridiculous. That's why. And it's a waste of your time. And it actively is really slowing down the process of metabolizing the emotions. Now you want to use your time. 24 hours is all you got. And so the state of grace and bliss and all that is love is always within your reach because that's exactly what it means when you are leading a restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, and regulating life. And you're leading with your mind, using your higher self and your body, non-traumatized with emotions in its state of safety and connection. So enlightenment, embodying pure consciousness, and living a flow state, they are very awesome, not just a little bit. And that's what we use mindset, mindfulness, and mindset skills and practices for. So you'll know if you are one of the members of our community because you'll enjoy being in the state of bliss, and also you'll enjoy when you get opportunities from that which is God, universe, source, to expand. And so our oversoul doesn't send us curveballs that we're not aware are meant to empower. I'm an empowered feminine. I have my own masculine, divine, and then masculine, feminine, but I also have the counterpart. So when you get good parenting and you don't have a lot of attachment wounds from your past, from your parents, then you don't have a lot of protectors, you don't have a lot of exiles, and you have a lot more access to self in general. So when people are either this or they heal with a good therapist and they get the protectors and exiles, they get rid of them by welcoming them, however it is they heal them, they get access to their higher self, okay? So that's when you're getting more and more access to your prefrontal. So secure attachment is when you are more self-led, which is where we're at, okay? So self-led means that I'm always going to have a good time in my relationships, even when I'm with people who, on the other hand, trauma impacts the body so strongly, and the responses that the body has are often not metabolized. So people get stuck in trauma time. They can't move on from it until those responses are metabolized. So when we have people who bring to us their past, we won't be healing their past for them because that's not how it works. The individual needs to be self-aware, accountable, and regulating, and their experiences are what come to us. They don't have their own trauma history. They're just going to bring the adaptive child part. Excuse me, you're confusing science and spirituality, so they're convinced they know what they're talking about. Or they're just going to try and tell you how to live life, or do the tone will give it away. That's where it's just really straightforward. And as Patrick Tiahan has pointed out, sometimes it's the clinical just asshole, because those who do not go to get themselves reparented bring their inner child with their past, and it's Cusco's attitude from yesterday's news. So the part that I wanted to read from him, he says, what matters most is your safety, dignity, peace. Obviously, if you're empowered, you already know that, so you don't have to be yelling at anybody. You're just going to be aware that a person who gets rigid and chaotic and doesn't know how to have a good time is actively a person who can make better use of Patrick Tiahan or Terry Real so that they can become a functional, at the very bare minimum, adult. Functional child adults, we have a good time at consistently because of the part of our wholeness. So let me pause to see if there's one more quote that I want to read. And then we'll move on a little bit more with our conversation. This one, yes. Christine Podesky, PhD. Ruptures are breaks in trust or intimacy in relationships, and repair describes the steps we take to restore trust and intimacy. Okay, so when you have people who are empowered and they're empowered to be their own true self, you're going to find yourself consistently being able to be dancing in a passionate, allowing, delightful, tantric journey with yourself and another. So the tantric journey allows that, which is unlocking hidden knowledge and wisdom to reach a state of wholeness, which with your higher self you do. Again, without another body, is you recalibrating and regulating to the state of safety and connection. And now we know you're a securely attached, non-traumatized person. So you can be your own 0 or 1 year old and say it's okay, meaning reassure yourself. The breathing, the pausing, the sitting in the emotions and the thoughts and not thinking of it as laundry like that Zen master, okay? And so you're whole. Then with another, you create two whole. It's called the differentiated self links with another differentiated self. And so I'm in my present because I'm in my prefrontal. And that's because I'm curious, open, accepting, loving. So even if I'm with a teenager, which is an adaptive child, I won't give a shit because I ain't going to calibrate to their low frequency. And they're not going to calibrate to mine unless they want to become their own mental energy in that moment. What I mean by that is if they feel at ease to be themselves, great. If they're bothered by it, then they will have what is called an actual reaction to my state of safety and connection. And it'll be more of, why is she neutral or positive? I don't like her. There's something off about her. When people are triggered emotionally by a person who's comfortable and empowered, you know they have insecurity like I knew when I was a teenager, and then I now am a grown-up that knows that people who don't go to Patrick Tihan and learn to love themselves first might have that same reaction. And I'm not going to cower away in shame because that's why. They can help themselves to get mentally, emotionally, physically non-traumatized and mature and then be able to be a functional inner child adult themselves. That's where the 5D mystic, mindful, living, loving, spiritual, and just people community is at. Integrated brains, restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, and regulating. We're whole in the absence of other. And when we come together, then we create two differentiated selves because we're not enmeshing. I respect you have thoughts and feelings of your own. I have thoughts and feelings of my own. You have where you're headed. I have where I'm headed. We walk and soar together, but you are loyal to what you're loyal to. I'm loyal to what I'm loyal to. We don't mold into one thing. No. So we never know, again, boredom or mediocrity or discomfort because we have an integrated brain with a differentiated self with secure attachment. We pursue and maintain our own restorative embodiment, self-awareness, accountability, and regulation in life, and our playground, and that which we will have decided to want to build and bring forth is what we build and bring forth. And we use a higher self that then can engage in functional child-adult relationships. So enlightenment and embodying that pure state of consciousness. A flow state is involving intellectually, emotionally, physically mature and expanding people. So they have to bring in delight and allowance and passion, not closed-mindedness and not ignorance. You don't tell me I'm confusing shit because I'm not. Because you actively are a person that doesn't know how to hear if you are judging how I'm connecting the dots. You're not discerning one, and really, why are you analyzing what's coming out of my mouth while you should be shutting that one up and allowing somebody to have their own way of bringing to something? A mindfully interactive conversation is that. So not everybody is a mindful listener, not everybody is a mindful person. And when you meet that, you'll know because they, in fact, will reveal it to you quite quickly, might I add. But we still have a good time. So when I got the 3-year-old in the room, I will shut it down. And I let the 3-year-old speak because I'm not interested in actively interacting with those types of They don't have anything to add because the way that they're already interrupting me shows me they're breaking my flow down. And they just did something that was unnecessary because I'm having social time. That's why. So I know that I get to learn from smart brains all the time. And when I am interacting with them, in fact, we expand each other. And because of those of us who are content creators, online entrepreneurs, marketers, and podcast hosts, and people who care about what we do all the time and learning personal development is a lot of things to learn about. In fact, the attachment trauma, I'm also a Reiki practitioner, so I have a bountiful of courses that I'm still ongoingly taking. I want more smart people, not the dumb ones. dumb ones are the ones who interject, and actively they're confused because they don't know where we're headed, because they actively don't even know how to accept that, yes, the future will be different. I was hearing Sabine with something on social construct, which I already knew was and will take place. And I already knew some more stuff that I won't be mentioning. There's no need. But I know that when I mention it to day people, they're like, no, that will never happen. No, and they all get into it. And then they also bring into me yesterday's economical news. And I'm like, okay, economics from yesterday is not economics from today. You obviously don't know about academia, master's degrees, PhDs, and people that matter, and you don't care to. So if you're not caring to learn that there's an entire subject matter group of economic experts with micro, macro, and social economics, that you don't really, please don't bring me your social organized little group's opinion. Because when I'm saying social, what I got is a 14-month-old who's got an in-group who's using yesterday's news with their idea of what economy is and has no idea that the entire subject matter of economy, and I'm using the words wrong because there's again, I'm not an economist, I'm a social scientist, but my point is, any individual who chimes in like that and says, no, the future of economy is never going to change, okay, you've already told me who you are. And your brain is, I don't want to actually investigate what you're about to say, because you're giving me yesterday's news, and I'm an intellectually, emotionally, and physically stable and intelligent person who knows that the future will be different. And you can't handle it, and you're ignoring that there's subject matter experts that are bountiful who meet in conferences, to say the least. Okay, so when you have ignorant human beings, you're going to know who they are, because they forget that there's schools that matter, and there are schools for reasons, and they're not dumb people. We don't have to put them on pedestals either. But every subject matter of group of, and again, between sociology, geology, even if I wanted to list it, once again, I won't, you understand my drift. So yeah, people who are not conceptualizing that the future will look different are limited because they don't want to understand that their minds are not stretching in any way, shape, or form to what is new for no other reason except for their, to me, ignorant people who don't understand how the world works. Because if they did, then they'd know when we had the medieval times it was different, and then the illumination and enlightenment or whatever, and so that the future is going to look different. But they're not looking at it from a socio-economical, political, and all of that, which is where I come from, meaning that I have done that, but also that's how the world, you don't look at the globe from one dimension. And if you are, and you're also looking at it from one country, and you're looking at it from one little neighborhood, you're forgetting that there's a whole big system going on. And so it's not dispersive. The 5D collective, intelligent individuals, enlightenment, soul age group people, and that's where it's not just that, but we delight in that which is wholeness, and there is a bountiful of smart individuals who are bringing that to us. So when we meet those who lack the capacity to conceptualize that which tomorrow will bring, we're not going to interrupt the 3-year-old, because let the 3-year-old speak. They get seen, soothed, heard. We get to find out something about a beautiful person, and there you go. And then you go and try to engage a lot more with the ones who bring to us that which can bring tomorrow into being. It's already happening in the first place, so it's not anything that we have to work really hard for. But it's nice to be able to build a community at IHP, again, and elsewhere, that we have emotional, mentally, physically intelligent people. We're very excited and we're very curious together. And so we explore our subject matter experts, all of the different subjects. We explore, I do spirituality. So we look into human evolution, expansion of consciousness. We don't use judgment because we're not charged. We use discernment, but really we also don't bother with these words in this way, because we're not here to nitpick on shit. We're actually here to bring it all in. It's like a big table full of people who have ideas, and depending on what we want to evaluate, we evaluate. Obviously the self and personal development is what my focus is. But as we look into the future, those other channels I'm talking about, when you have the ones who are of our collective, you'll see that they're bringing to us conversations that are enlightening with those other angles. So I mentioned economy because of the micro and macroeconomical perspective, and how the future will change from the economical. I think they have philosophies and strategies, right? There's a whole bunch of theories. And so those are the people who are already on board with knowing what our potential variables of tomorrow. I'm not aware of it. The people who know about it are comfortable talking about it. The people who are not are the ones who think that because we've had until yesterday capitalism, that it will always be. You're an obtuse person if you think that that was yesterday's and it's always going to have to be tomorrow, because that used to not be. So the reality is you want to continue to think of the world in the way that you've known it, without understanding that the way you've known it wasn't the way that others knew it, and it won't be the way that the future will be, because that's just sometimes at a certain point in our human history how things go. And really it's fun. So nobody's afraid of it, and nobody is thinking of it in a way of I'm going to leave that one for next time. But yes, so with tantric journey, wholeness, completion, and that's through your own essential experiences with yourself and with another. So you're able to sense that which is sensorial. It doesn't have to imply anything sexual. And in fact, we can also delight in that which is the feelings of intense joy and happiness. And within ourselves, but also evoke it within others. We also get to allow. We allow ourselves to be open to whatever comes our way, without judgment, without opinion, without fear, and without resistance. And when we allow, that's where the universe becomes our partner in the wondrous dance of existence and expansion and passion. It reminds us that beneath every intense emotion lies the hidden gem of insight, balance, and calm. And it assists us in finding the balance within this intensity, moving us from chaos to the calm of its core, where we can let its long-lasting wisdom fill us up. Now, when you have people who are empowered to be their true self, they are brains that are integrated. And so with integration of the brain comes access to pure consciousness, because you're a whole self. That's a verb, as Dr. Daniel Siegel has shared with me, and that I can attest is how I feel. And that self consistently expands, so you don't lock up pure consciousness. And it's not because we're actually destabilized by any of that which are downloads, life, past lives, future lives, all of that, from the spiritual perspective. From a science's perspective, a neuroscientist spelled it out quite clearly. He said, it's not supernatural for you to be in a flow state. It's part of how you can be, because your brain has the capacity to be there. And selflessness, timelessness, effortless, and richness are the four things that happen as you're in a flow state, and I know all about it. Okay, so you don't do the flow state and expansion and pure consciousness, meaning embodying unconditional love, and your pure 3-year-old heart, the joy of life, by yourself. You do it because you have the ownership of the sense of self, use your human name, and you own your child parts, and they're uncharged. Otherwise, you won't have an integrated brain. As you have integrated the bilateral vertical, and so now my sensorial experience, interception, everything that comes up, I'm able to share it, and I want to. I want to have an open heart. I want to get angry with someone. I want to get not in a way that is disruptive, meaning I want to share that I'm angry. I want to share that I'm afraid. I want to share that I'm surprised. I want to share that I'm disgusted. I want to share that I'm sad. I want to share that I have emotions from the depths of me. And so I will share being vulnerable in the absence of holding back and restricting myself and protecting my body. And that's where instead those people who are this, you will perceive them. They contain themselves. And so that's the part of they're not integrated yet. If they want more integration, then they are going to have to release and share. So for those who are restorative embodiment, again, we own ourselves. We are ourselves. We're not afraid of sharing vulnerability and our senses and our emotions and our thoughts. And so even if others don't have the capacity to look at the anima mundi, spiritual sciences coming together, and at the different aspects that are coming forth, the ones of us who do, we're having a good time, which is where the practices support you to continue to handle your day-to-day. Depends what objectives you have, but also just random fun mental emotional activity stuff, because it's fun for people to do exercises with mindset in mind, and with mindfulness, and with whatever aspects of spiritual growth, of exploration of those concepts, so novelty that comes in, and then with the self that is decentralized, but it expands. And so every now and then we'll get some new things come into the room that you get to expand. Your attachment category stays fixed. Your personality patterns, they soften, and then your identity also softens. And so you're able to consistently rework that which is your dance of this self, and that's because your child parts don't need somebody else to soothe you when you're afraid, and you also don't think that God's punishing you or that there's some curse that's happening. So for people of faith, those of us who have a sense of ease with being our true self, and we know about what effective realism or even emotional realism is. So for some people, emotions are so powerful that they feel like irrefutable facts. We leave it alone for that reason. You know, a brain that does not have a mind and a body and a self, so a person who wants to expand their ideas, who wants to expand the way that they live life, so who wants to embody more of one, again, their true self, but also allow themselves to be flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, and stable when change is happening. We don't impose on anybody to be flexible to that which is change. We, though, are. So in our present prefrontal, we're curious, open, accepting, loving. And so we attune with other differentiated selves. And then we have an expanded room full of differentiated selves. And that's why science and spirituality, brains and minds and hearts that are in the 5D, we are so enamored with each other, because every time there's a wealth and bountifulness that comes from it. I know I experience it every day, and that's because of being all ears on that which is part of right now and part of tomorrow, and with the awareness of that which we don't know yet, but we're not choosing it either. Okay, and really, I'm going to close this out with, it's nice to not have those one focused and enamored with themselves groups in our group, because as they choose to isolate themselves due to the fact that they're not welcoming of differences, their contributions are made in very specific ways. We come together with all different golden nuggets from them and then ourselves, and as some of us are entrepreneurs and again content creators, we get to bring in the novelty that our adolescent essence brings us with the creative expansion and expression, because we're not insecure people who need to prove our points. We come solid with good information, and we also come open to knowing that we're not trying to prove something, but that we're trying to work towards something together. And this is the joy of when abundance is brought forth from those of us who, again, embody. So remembering that perception for those of us who are empowered to be ourselves is not distorted. We don't have children who need reparenting, and we bring all of us to the forefront, thoughts and emotions. So we know prosperity, and we know that there's enough for everyone, but we want to create even more prosperity, and we plan on doing this for all. So we do remember and know where we come from, and every single one of God's children is chosen. If they want to get heaven in the body, that kingdom of God, they go heal that trauma. 20 years it might take, they will have that soul and that self. And the ones who are fixated on thinking that only one group of people are chosen, those people don't understand we're all children of the same, and that the way that you will contribute to humanity in a way that expands involves your heart. And it can only be participating if you have a body that is in a state of safety and connection. And so non-reactivity. Not when your body is protective. Your closed heart means that you want a group that is small and defined, because you can't fathom to have a bigger group, because your brain, mind, and heart and body goes into rigidity and or chaos, which means you do not have a defined sense of self that you own. So you don't know how to observe, witness it, narrate it. You don't know who you are. You don't know anything about how to handle your sensations, images, affects, the meanings or the experiences and behaviors that are they're coming up. There's your adaptive child. If you are instead a mindfully living person, I get to handle my mental activity, my emotional activity, my physical activity, not suppress it, handle it, not manage it, share it, not suppress it, express, expand it. Be welcoming to it, and that is the beauty and power of mindset skills, mindfulness practices, and the inner growth mindset when you're putting it in the forefront, because you can always be yourself with flaws and integrity, and not be afraid of somebody saying, you know what, you're a piece of shit, I don't like you. Thank you so much. See you later, alligator. Peace out. You're stupid. Really? That's awesome. You know, so again, empowered women, men, and days. We're really awesomely thankful for all because as Robert Sapolsky with Determined points out, we don't have free will. So, I mean, really, we're going to be nice to our brothers and sisters. No, Lucifer. Neuroscience shares with us what happens to people who don't go heal their trauma. And we leave it alone for another day. Thank you for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe. And again, we love to love. And our babies, they love to laugh and they love to live and love and learn and expand and not cast stones. And they like to discern and not judge and not be charged, but instead to have a good time. And we get to catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. These are some of my favorite songs. My regular viewers know about it. So thanks for stopping by again. Have a good one.